Well, the Gupta banking matter is underway at the North Gauteng High Court. Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan made a brief appearance there yesterday. He wants the court to exempt him from intervening in the family's dispute with the country's major banks. Well, senior reporter Annika Larsen is following that story for us. Let's go live to her now. Annika, what's unfolded in court so far today?
Michelle, we've certainly had a glimpse from the bank side on the kind of pressure that Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan and the banks themselves were under to resolve a dispute between the banks and the Gupta family and all their related businesses when the banks, the four major banks in Sasfin, closed those accounts down and switched off the tap, so to speak, judging by the comments made in court today by the banks. The banks saying that the lines were crossed. The Gupta family were on a concerted campaign to sort of put forth this conspiracy theory that Pravin Gordhan and the banks had a big plan hatched to discredit them in South Africa. This was not the case, and they kept on harassing the minister on the minister's version. They kept on writing letters. They asked Standard Bank to meet at Luthuli House, and there was a concerted effort made by the Gupta family to quite aggressively make cabinet members overturn the decision taken by the banks. Now, some of the banks say that the lines were crossed and the boundaries need to be drawn. A court needs to explain to private individuals that a member of the executive or the finance minister cannot lawfully intervene or interfere in a private matter between a client and a relationship. And Oakbay, it would seem on the bank's version, thought that there would be nothing wrong with them coercing or quite convincingly stepping up an effort to make the banks change their mind. And Pravin Gordhan got two legal opinions on this and was told that it wouldn't be lawful. So Oakbay says, what's the big deal? You know, he was told it wasn't lawful. Why did he have to go to court on it? Yes, we agree that the finance minister shouldn't intervene, but, and here's the big but, Oakbay has not yet explained to the court why, if they knew it was unlawful, did they persist in making themselves seen and making their presence known and felt to the finance minister? Why did they write so many letters? Why all the phone calls? Why the meetings arranged? Why the pressure exerted on the banks? And then very importantly, the South African Reserve Bank saying, please, we need a rule and order on this because people need stability here. We have to look after the economy of South Africa. We are here to protect the rand. We need stability, we need rules, and we need order, please, so that we can be the guardians, the custodians of the rand, which at this stage is experiencing some volatility.
Annika, Oakbay also saying it suffered unjustified and severe reputational damage as a result of Pravin Gordhan calling for them to withdraw from this application.
Well, you know, Oakbay was asked to strike out all the conspiracy allegations it made, saying that Pravin Gordhan was spearheading this political narrative to try and besmirch their reputations and to stop them from getting state contracts. The whole story of white monopoly capital siding with Pravin Gordhan, and you could certainly get a glimpse, even if you look at this urgent application that's been filed to be heard tomorrow morning against the minister and against the South African Reserve Bank by a close Gupta associate who are trying to buy Habib Bank, saying that the minister and really the South African Reserve Bank is not letting them do this deal. It's stopping them, it's blocking them. So there's a much bigger picture at play here, and that is very much the so-called Gupta family and their team, if you like, and then Team Pravin and so-called white monopoly capital, which of course is a new made-up phrase, and that would be the banks. So it's very much a case of, in this court right here, before our eyes, us and them. And something that is interesting, which Oakbay has yet to answer, is that the banks are saying, you know, it doesn't matter if Pravin Gordhan is no longer the Minister of Finance. It doesn't matter who the Minister of Finance is. People need to know that the Minister of Finance, when something goes wrong in their banking private lives, the Minister cannot jump in and interfere. And the Oakbay is saying this is not true at all. This is not some kind of legacy that Pravin Gordhan is trying to bestow upon South Africans to stop interference in the banking industry. This is a very narrow point that Pravin Gordhan wants to prevent the Gupta family from approaching any minister to make sure that their banking woes are heard and fixed.
Annika, you know, there's been a lot said. One might think it goes without saying that the finance minister, the executive, can't interfere with the relationship between a bank and its client. But if the court does issue this order, what would that mean?
Well, it would mean that if the banks close off your or my account, anyone's account for that matter, depending on the relief that is given, that we cannot phone up our contact at the Reserve Bank or phone up Pravin Gordhan's office and order a meeting with them and send them letters saying, listen, please can't you sort this out for us, this is not fair. You and I are going to have to do what everybody else does and just deal with it in a different way. We can't involve the finance minister. But Oakbay is saying that sort of order can't be given, that relief can't be given, because this is very, very narrow. This is about the Guptas and the finance minister. It's not about the general public, it's not about South Africans, it's not as far-reaching as that. It's a very narrow order, so it'll be very interesting to see where the judges go with this. And the judges did seem quite reluctant when dealing with Standard Bank's extra relief that they're asking for. They don't want the president to be able to interfere either, and they don't want any members of cabinet to interfere in the private relationship between a bank and client. So the judges seemed reluctant. They were grappling with this. They were finding it hard, and I suspect that the order, if given, will be aimed to in the boundaries of the position of finance minister.
Annika, this is most certainly the first of its kind. This case that is in court. How do you see it unfolding over the next few weeks, months even?
I think that we should finish arguments today, Michelle. I think that Oakbay will wrap up shortly after lunch, and judgment could be reserved. It doesn't seem that urgent, but certainly we will be a step further once judgment is handed down on whether a finance minister is lawfully allowed to intervene in the private matters of a bank, whether the finance minister is allowed to pick up the phone to Sim Chabalala at Standard Bank and say, I don't like what you're doing to my friends here, can you go and sort this out? That is what is going to be ruled on, whether that's lawful or not. And I think that if that order stands, it doesn't matter who the finance minister is. We've all heard the rumours swirling around every day. Is Pravin Gordhan still our finance minister? It doesn't matter who the minister is, unless it's overturned on appeal. It'll stand for posterity, and I wonder if that's not what Pravin Gordhan's aim has been in launching this entire application.
Our senior reporter Annika Larson live to us there at the North Gauteng High Court.